Please make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Some insults cut deep, not because of the words themselves, but because of who they come from. I had been called many things in my life, some of them whispered behind my back, others thrown in my face, but I never expected to hear that word from my own daughter-in-law. The maid. That's what she called me. Not Mom, not Mrs. Thompson, not even mother-in-law. Just the maid. It happened on a Sunday afternoon, in my own son's house, the house I had poured my savings into to help them buy when they were struggling. I had been quietly scrubbing the kitchen counter after making lunch, my hands still smelling faintly of lemon soap, when she leaned over the island to her friend and said it with a smirk. "Don't mind her, she's just the maid." The words didn't sting at first. They echoed in my mind like a slow drumbeat, each repetition digging deeper until it hit something inside me that snapped. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I didn't even tell my son what she'd said. Instead, I went to my room, pulled out my desk drawer, and stared at a single manila envelope, the one that held the deed to the house. Because what neither of them knew was that the house they lived in, the one she walked through so confidently, still had my name on it. And the next morning, I decided she was about to find out exactly what happens when you mistake kindness for servitude. I waited until a Friday morning. She always stayed home on Fridays while my son was at work, lounging in her robe, sipping coffee from the mug I had given her for Christmas, scrolling through her phone like she had no care in the world. I stood at the doorway to the kitchen, the sunlight streaming in behind me, and dangled the keys between my fingers. She looked up, confused. "What's that?" "The keys," I said, my voice calm, almost too calm. "They're yours now." Her eyebrows knit together. "Keys to what?" "To the house," I replied, letting the words hang in the air like smoke. "I just signed it over to you." I saw her posture shift, half suspicious, half triumphant. "Oh, well, thanks, I guess." I smiled, but it wasn't the kind of smile she was used to from me. "You're welcome. Good luck with the mortgage payments." And with that, I set the keys on the counter and walked out. She didn't know it yet, but I had just pulled the rug out from under her perfect little world. Because when I signed over the house, I also transferred the full responsibility for the loan, tripled interest rate and all. She thought I was just the maid. She was about to learn I was the one holding the mop and the match. It didn't take long for the ripples to turn into waves. 3 days after I handed her the keys, I was in my small apartment across town, sipping tea and listening to the radio, when my phone buzzed. Her name flashed on the screen. I didn't answer. 5 minutes later, my son called. I didn't answer that either. Instead, I leaned back in my chair and imagined the scene playing out, her standing in the kitchen, staring at a thick white envelope from the bank, her manicured hands trembling as she unfolded the letter. I knew exactly what it would say. Notice of transfer of mortgage responsibility. Outstanding balance, $482,000. Adjusted monthly payment due, $4,762. First payment due in 14 days. See, when I helped them buy that house years ago, I kept my name on the title, not because I didn't trust my son, but because I knew life had a way of changing people. The loan was under favorable terms with my credit. But when I transferred the deed to her, the bank didn't just keep the deal, they reassessed the terms based on her credit score. And hers, from what I'd heard in passing, wasn't exactly pristine. That evening, I heard my front door buzzer. I walked down the stairs slowly, letting her pound on the door until the rhythm grew frantic. When I finally opened it, there she was, her hair disheveled, no makeup, robe hanging loosely over pajama pants. She looked nothing like the perfectly composed woman who had called me the maid. "What the hell did you do?" she demanded. I tilted my head. "I gave you the keys. Isn't that what you wanted?" This isn't fair," she stammered. "Do you have any idea what they're asking for? Almost $5,000 a month. We can't afford that." I took a slow sip from my tea, letting her words fill the silence. "Funny," I said finally, "how a house can be such a blessing, until you actually have to pay for it." Her eyes narrowed. "You're trying to ruin us." I set my cup down and met her gaze. "No. I'm teaching you a lesson you should have learned a long time ago. Never look down on the person who holds the keys to your comfort." She stood there, speechless, her lips parting and closing like she wanted to argue but couldn't find the words. When she finally turned to leave, I knew this was only the beginning. Because mortgages have due dates, and so does karma. 2 days later, my son showed up. No call, no warning, just a sharp knock on my door that rattled the hinges. When I opened it, he stood there in his work suit, tie loosened, hair messy like he'd been running his hands through it all day. "Mom," he said, his voice tight. "We need to talk." I stepped aside, and he walked in without waiting for an invitation. He didn't sit, didn't smile. Just paced. "Anita told me what you did," he began. "You signed the house over to her and now the mortgage is in her name. The bank hiked the payments, almost doubled them. We can't handle that." I leaned on the arm of my chair, watching him like I used to when he was a boy trying to explain why the cookie jar was mysteriously empty. "And why exactly?" I asked softly. "Did I sign it over to her?" He blinked. "Because she's your daughter-in-law." I tilted my head. "No. Because she told me I was just the maid." His mouth opened, then closed again. He didn't speak right away, like the words were too big to swallow. "She, what?" I nodded slowly. "While you were out that morning, she came into the kitchen, saw me cleaning up the dishes from breakfast, and decided that's all I was good for." Said it in that tone. The kind people use when they're trying to make you feel small. His pacing stopped. His shoulders dropped a fraction. "Mom. I didn't know." "I know you didn't," I said. "And I wasn't going to tell you. But when someone treats me like I'm beneath them, especially in my own house, I make sure they understand the cost of comfort. Sometimes literally." He rubbed his forehead. This is going to be a mess. Anita's furious, the bank's breathing down our necks." I interrupted gently. "You have options, son. Sell the house, refinance, downsize. But if you keep it, pay it." I did my part. "Now it's your turn." For a moment, I saw the boy I raised, the one who used to defend me on the playground, fighting against the man trying to keep peace with his wife. He sighed deeply. "I'll figure something out." "Do that," I said. "And tell your wife something for me. Next time she calls someone the maid, she'd better hope that person isn't the one holding the deed." He left without another word. But as the door clicked shut, I had the distinct feeling that the mortgage wouldn't be the only thing coming due in their marriage. 3 days passed before I heard from Anita again. This time, it wasn't her voice, it was her banging on my front door like the police. When I opened it, she stood there with mascara streaks, hair wild, and her hands shaking, not from fear, but from rage. You ruined my life, she spat. You think this is funny? The bank is threatening foreclosure. Do you know what people will say about us? I smiled faintly. They'll probably say you should have been nicer to the maid. Her nostrils flared. Don't play games with me, old woman. Just give me the deed back. I leaned in, my voice low but steady. Anita, I didn't take the deed from you. I gave it to you. It's your house. Your mortgage. Your problem. She stepped closer, lowering her voice as if the neighbors might hear. Fine. If you won't give it back, I'll tell your son you were never going to leave him anything. That you planned to sell the house out from under us. I laughed, an honest, hearty laugh. Oh, Anita, he already knows. I told him everything. The problem isn't me, it's you. And now? He's starting to see it too. Her eyes darted away for just a second, enough for me to know she felt the shift. She wasn't in control anymore. Then, as if on cue, my son's car pulled into the driveway. He got out slowly, watching us from a distance. When he reached the porch, he stood between us. Anita, he said firmly, Mom's not giving the house back. And honestly, I don't blame her. I've been thinking about what she told me. About how you treated her. Anita's jaw dropped. You're taking her side. I'm taking the side of the person who's always had my back, he replied. If that means you have to face the consequences of your own words, so be it. Her face twisted, but before she could speak again, I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small white envelope. This, I said, holding it up, was the last thing I planned to give you both. But after what happened, I decided to keep it, until today. She snatched it and tore it open, only to freeze. Inside was a check. For $200,000. That, I said, would have paid off the mortgage in full. I was going to surprise you on your anniversary. But when you called me the maid, I shredded the first one. This is a reprint. And it comes with a condition. Her voice cracked. What condition? That you put my name on the deed again, as co-owner. Not for me to live there. Just to make sure you never forget who helped you keep it. My son looked at me with a mixture of shock and pride. Anita looked like she'd swallowed glass. She signed the papers 2 days later. And every time she walked past that framed deed in the hallway, with both our names in bold print, I saw her flinch. Some debts, after all, aren't just financial, they're personal. Years passed, and though Anita tried to plaster on her perfect smile at family gatherings, her eyes told the real story. Every holiday, she'd walk me to the door with a forced politeness that dripped with unspoken bitterness. The deed stayed right where I told her to keep it, in a gold frame on the hallway wall. She never dared take it down, because removing my name would have violated our agreement and triggered the clause in the legal papers I'd had drawn up. Yes. I'd made sure of that. But karma has a way of working faster than we expect. One autumn afternoon, my son came to visit me alone. He sat at my kitchen table, stirring his tea in silence before speaking. Mom. I'm filing for divorce. I didn't flinch. I'm sorry to hear that. But I can't say I'm surprised. She's been reckless with money. Maxed out credit cards. Tried to sell the house without telling me, until the realtor reminded her that your signature was required. I sipped my tea slowly, letting the words sink in. So the maid saved the house again. He laughed, but there was a heaviness in his voice. The truth is, "Mom, you were right about her. And I was blind. But I'm grateful you protected me, even when I didn't deserve it." When the divorce was finalized, the house came to me entirely, paid off, sitting pretty in my name alone. Anita. She moved into a cramped apartment across town, her once perfect social image shattered. As for me, I didn't just keep the house. I rented it out to a lovely young couple who treated me like royalty whenever I came by to check in. Sometimes, when I passed that hallway and saw the empty spot where the deed used to hang, I'd smile to myself. Because in the end, Anita got exactly what she gave me, only I made sure my version came with legal paperwork and a bow on top. And that, my dear, is how the Maid became the landlord.